Have you ever noticed how certain people just keep pushing? They ask for favors after you've already said no. They make jokes at your expense, even after you've told them to stop. They show up late, cancel plans last minute, or treat your time like it's worth less than theirs. You've probably experienced this. Someone crosses a line, you address it calmly. You explain why it bothered you. Maybe you even set a clear boundary. And for a moment, it seems like they get it. But then days or weeks later, they do it again. Same behavior, same violation, different excuse. And you're left wondering, did they not hear me? Do they not respect me? Or is something else going on? Here's what psychology reveals. When someone tests a boundary, they're not asking if the boundary exists. They're asking if it's enforced. And the way you respond in that first moment determines whether they'll test it again. Let me explain the mechanism. Every time you set a boundary, but follow it with justification, explanation, or hesitation, you activate something called response variability in the other person's brain. Essentially, their nervous system detects inconsistency, not in your words, but in your energy. And inconsistency signals flexibility. It tells them subconsciously that if they push at the right angle or pick the right moment, the boundary might bend. This isn't manipulation. Most people aren't doing this consciously. It's just how humans are wired. We test structures to see if they hold. It's the same reason a child pushes a parent's rule, or why someone keeps bringing up a topic you said you didn't want to discuss. They're not trying to disrespect you, they're trying to map where the real line is. And here's the part most people miss. The real line isn't where you say it is. It's where you consistently enforce it. So here's the technique that changes everything. It's called the boundary anchor. And it works because it removes every signal that says maybe. Instead of explaining why you're setting a boundary, you state it once with zero elaboration, and then you stop talking completely. You don't feel the silence, you don't soften it, you don't apologize for it. You just let the boundary exist in the space between you. Let me show you what this looks like. Someone asks to borrow something you don't want to lend. Instead of saying, I'm not really comfortable with that because last time it didn't come back in great condition and I've been trying to be more careful with my stuff, you say, I don't lend that out. And then you stop. You don't smile apologetically, you don't rush to change the subject, you just hold the space. Someone interrupts you mid-sentence for the third time in one conversation. Instead of politely waiting for them to finish and then circling back to your point, you stop talking, make eye contact, and say, let me finish. Then you continue exactly where you left off. Someone makes plans with you and cancels last minute again. Instead of saying, no worries, I totally understand, life gets busy, you say, I don't make plans with people who cancel last minute. And then you stop reaching out. Notice what's happening here. You're not being aggressive. You're not punishing anyone. You're simply removing the negotiation layer. And when there's nothing to negotiate, people stop negotiating. But here's where the psychology gets really interesting. The reason this works has to do with something called social certainty detection. The human brain is constantly scanning for certainty in interactions. It wants to know where it stands. And when your words, tone, and energy all communicate the same message with no gaps, no hesitation, no room for interpretation, the brain registers that as certainty, and certainty ends testing. Think about it this way. When you explain a boundary, you're essentially saying, here's why I need this to be true. But the moment you explain, you've introduced doubt. Because now the other person's brain is thinking, okay, but what if my reason is better? What if I can show them why this situation is different? But when you state a boundary without explanation, you're saying something entirely different. You're saying, this is reality. It's not up for discussion. And when something is presented as reality, not preference, people don't argue with it. They adjust to it. Now, here's what happens when you start doing this. At first, you'll probably feel uncomfortable because you've been socially conditioned to soften, to explain, to make others comfortable with your boundaries. Society teaches us that firmness is unkind,
But here's the truth psychology shows us. Clarity is the kindest thing you can offer. When you're unclear, people have to guess, they have to test, they have to push to find out where you actually stand. And that creates anxiety for both of you. But when you're clear, even if your boundary disappoints them, they know exactly where they stand. And that removes confusion. You might also encounter pushback. Someone might say, "Why are you being so harsh?" Or, "I was just asking. You don't have to be rude about it." And here's the critical moment. You don't defend. You don't re-explain. You simply repeat the boundary. "I don't lend that out." "But why not? I'm not going to break it." "I don't lend that out." This is called boundary repetition, and it works because it removes emotional charge. You're not escalating, you're not getting defensive, you're just calmly restating reality. And after 1 or 2 attempts, most people realize the boundary isn't moving, so they stop pushing. And here's what's remarkable. Once people learn that your boundaries are firm, they stop testing all of them, not just the one you enforced. Because you've trained their nervous system to recognize that when you set a line, it's real. But there's one more layer to this that determines whether it actually works, and it's not about what you say. It's about how your body holds the boundary. When you state a boundary, but your shoulders are tense, your voice is apologetic, or you immediately look away, your body is saying, "I'm uncomfortable enforcing this." And people read that discomfort as an opening. Not because they're predators, just because humans are wired to detect incongruency. When your words say one thing and your body says another, people trust the body. So here's the practice. Before you enforce a boundary, take one slow breath. Let your shoulders drop. Then speak from that settled place. Your tone should be neutral. Not cold, not warm, just calm. Like you're stating a fact. The store closes at 9. I don't lend that out. Same energy. Because here's what people don't tell you about boundaries. They're not about control. They're about teaching. Every time you enforce a boundary clearly, you're teaching someone how to be in relationship with you. And the people who care about you will learn quickly. The ones who don't will reveal themselves just as fast. So here's your takeaway. The next time someone tests a boundary, don't explain, don't justify, just state it once and stop talking. Let the silence do the work. Because boundaries aren't walls that keep people out. They're maps that show people how to stay close. And the clearer the map, the easier it is for everyone to find their way. If this changed how you see things, subscribe, because we're just getting started on how your mind really works.